Our next trustee candidate is Barbara Struthers. She's finishing her second term as a trustee for the Village of Deerfield, and we welcome you tonight.
Thank you.
And I just want to have everyone around the table introduce themselves.
Jerry Levy. David Kurpel.
I didn't get
David Kurpel.
Thank you.
Steve Slater.
Michael Shalin.
Jack Sears. Dan Shapiro.
Harry Gold. Mike DeBall.
Okay. Nice to meet you all, and thank you all for doing this. This is such an important piece of our government. It makes things much less expensive than any other way we could do it, and it's a good process. So, my name is Barbara Struthers. You know that. I'm a toxicologist. Besides the Board of Trustees, I serve on the South Lake Mosquito Abatement District Board. I am a member of the Society of Toxicology and the Midwest Regional Chapter, and a couple of years ago I was surprised by them to receive their Midwestern Regional Chapter Lifetime Achievement Award. I got something like that from the League of Women, or the AAUW too, even though I've never been an AAUW member, so I was very appreciative of that. I am a Rotarian. I am past president of Deerfield Rotary, and I am currently their community service chair and the foundation chair, which means that I try to get them to give money to the Rotary Foundation for grants for worldwide service. And just so that you know some of the things, one thing that Rotary did recently. Last Saturday we had an all-day seminar down at Addison. And one of the Arlington Heights Rotarians said, if this district will donate stuff, bedding, all the things that the Hurricane Sandy victims need, I will donate my trailer and I will drive it back there. Well, by the time we finished taking stuff down from people in the Rotary clubs all around this district, there were 2 trailer loads. And he found another trailer and they drove them back to Paramus, New Jersey. So that was... We work with the Chamber, the Police Department, and West Deerfield Township to sponsor the parents who lose the most. We put on a campaign for Don't Text and Drive. Had a session up at the high school where they had Don't Text and Drive. The AAA comes in with these computer machines that look like drunk driving, or look like, you have a text thing on there to see if you can drive. The students are just amazed at that they couldn't do all the things they thought they could do. And the setup was pretty nice. But that's been one of the things that I have done just with the Rotary Club. I've also been chairman of the July 4th 10K race for the last couple of years. I don't run, but I can organize. I'm also a deputy registrar for the League of Women Voters. I also sing in the North Shore Choral Society and in the church choir. And I have enjoyed being on the village board and working with people in the village and trying to help solve some of the problems of the people in the village. And I am here to answer your questions, unless you want me to talk about what more stuff in the village that we've done.
We'll start with questions. We're going to start over here with Mike DeBall.
You mentioned in your response about having a village commission work with staff to bring the merchants to Deerfield. Can you expand on that a little bit? Is it volunteer positions, paid positions?
No. This village saves an awful lot of money by having unpaid trustees and unpaid commissions and so on. And we've tapped into the expertise of people in the village. There are a lot of really good business people in this village. And if we could get the right committee of perhaps 3 or 4 people to work with the staff to identify businesses or encourage businesses that we've identified to come into the village. The commercial enterprises, the Reef and the people that own Cadwell Corners and Chuck Mock and the other places, other people that have vacant spaces, have professionals that go out and look for business just to come in and fill their spaces. But I think that's one thing we might consider doing to help our businesses bring people in a little faster so that we could generate the sales tax revenue from retail businesses. And one of the other things that we have considered is, and I hate to limit businesses this way, but we're getting an awful lot of non-retail businesses, a lot of medical offices. Those do not generate sales tax. The property owners love them because they move in and they don't move out and they've got a stable tenant. We do not love them so much because we don't get sales tax from them. In Cook County, it doesn't matter so much. The Village is the only one that gets the sales taxes from the Cook County businesses south of Lake Cook Road. In Lake County, it matters a lot because the sales taxes go not just to the Village, but also to our school district, fire district, and so on. Everything else south of Lake Cook goes to Northbrook. So, is that okay?
I noticed that you've been in the Village for nearly 30 years now. What's the biggest change in Deerfield from when you started, when you moved here to present day?
Downtown. When I moved here, downtown was the old Village Commons, and the way that I got in village government to start with was that I got tired of seeing the hardware store and Jewel have storage windows. And I wrote a letter to the village and said, why don't you do something about this? And I got a letter back, why don't you be on the VCDC? So I actually was on the VCDC for 16 years, and one of the things we did was to revamp the entire downtown area to what we have now. And that, to me, that besides filling in all the little residential spaces that were open at the time that I moved, just about everything is filled up now. And there were some actually open spaces when I came that were in the process of being sold. But the downtown is the major change.
So what do you think is the greatest asset that, given your background, life experiences, etc., that you bring to the board?
Concern and care for the residents. I have a background that's somewhat different from some of the people on the board. And I will tell you, one of the places that has brought a business into town or helped bring a business into town when it might not have been brought in. The barking lot came with a petition to bring their doggy daycare here to Deerfield. And when I went to the Plan Commission meeting, all I heard was, gee, maybe there's not going to be enough parking and it's going to be loud and they're going to have odors. And the guy that was going to be across from us said they're going to make me close my restaurant because it's going to be awful. He closed the restaurant the day before they opened anyway. And I have been involved with animals professionally for my entire career. And I thought, nobody has said anything about animal care. So I went down to one of their other facilities, walked in, and said, I'm Barbara Struthers, I'm a Deerfield trustee, can I see your facility? There were no odors. The dogs were playing, and there were plenty of people. The spaces were adequate. The place was clean as a whistle. And it's been a good business in Deerfield. They've got a retail space, they have the best groomers on the North Shore, and I really encouraged them to come because they were good.
Barbara, I just make sure I understood, talking about economic development in the village and maintaining or increasing our sales tax revenue. Were you advocating a paid position that could focus, or an unpaid volunteer to get the parties together to
unpaid? We don't. We have staff that is working on this. Jeff Reichert is doing a really fine job. The village website has under the businesses, you go down and you can find all the open spaces that are available for retail in Deerfield, and you can click on those little dots and you open it up, and the person to contact, that if you're interested in opening a business in Deerfield, the contact information is right there. You go up to the village hall if you're a person that wants to open a business in Deerfield, and you get help from the staff. What I would like to see is perhaps a commission, small, volunteer of our expert business people to help identify businesses that would fit in Deerfield in some of those spaces, and just bring them to the attention of the owners, or bring Deerfield to the attention of the people who have those businesses that might want to move in here.
Follow up to that, you mentioned professional services like doctors and lawyers and sort of do not pay retail sales tax, of course, but do these professional services firms pay their fair share, would you say? In some revenue, as some.
Of course, they all those buildings pay property taxes, and if the offices are full, the taxes are higher than they are if it's an empty building, for sure.
So as a share in, let's say, if you were a doctor, a medical office in one of our buildings, would you say that business entity participates?
Oh, absolutely.
They
they certainly participate in paying taxes by way of property taxes. They also attract patients whom we hope will have places to shop in Deerfield. It would be nice if Deerbrook had some more businesses where they could go, but people do come in here, and we've got a lot of restaurants that are really good, and people go to the doctors and they go to lunch. So they do bring in people into the village.
So comparing them to a retail store, you feel that there's a parity of revenue from whether you're a small business owner of a pet store or you're a doctor or lawyer, that the equivalent services that the village provides to those business owners are participating.
We provide the same services to all of the businesses. The retail stores we get sales tax from.
Right.
And if you have more retail stores and people coming in to shop, I met a gentleman the other day that got a sign place over in Deer Park Plaza, is what they call it, Lake Cook Plaza now. And I really didn't realize that it was there. He's been there for almost 2 years, because there hasn't been much retail in that area. We need more, so there are more places for us to go shop there, so that we can see all these businesses that are there.
But the reason I'm kind of belaboring the point maybe a bit is because you said you love the retail more than you do the professional services because of the tax
they generate more taxes for the village. The whole idea is to generate money to the village that is not paid by the residents in the form of property taxes. And the more we can generate from other sources, the lower our property taxes can be.
First off, you sound incredibly busy. You seem that you're much busier than I am, so I thank you for all those different things that you're doing. The Rotary I know that they have the awards at the high school. My daughter's won some of the stuff, and I think they do a great job. What my question is other than the real estate issue, which seems to be the major issue this time, everybody's talking about the vacancies. What other issues do you see that are major issues are coming down the pike that we need to look at? We need to be prepared for something that's coming along. Is there anything that you see out there that Deerfield needs to be prepared for or working on now so that it doesn't become a major problem later?
I hate to even bring this up. The county would like to take over Deerfield Road. the county is willing to pay for us to renovate Deerfield Road if they can take it over. I don't want them to do that. I think they should pay for the road anyway because we get nothing from them. The last time we got anything from the county, they split us into 3 legislative districts, so we have no power in any of them. That would be terrible because we would have no control over how many lanes wide it was, what the speed limits were. They'd like a straight shot between 94 and 41. And they want to have Highland Park give up control of their part of Deerfield Road as well. They will. And I think they should pay for this road because people do travel through Deerfield and Highland Park, whether they take it over or not. I am not willing to give up jurisdiction of our main street to the county, and that's one of the things that I see that we have to keep our eye on for the future. The one thing that we kept our eye on for a long time that we're almost finished with now is our new wastewater treatment plant. And that, we looked at Lake County, another place we've gotten wonderful service from the county. Lake County has 4 wastewater treatment plants. And we looked at hooking up to one of their plants when our plant was getting old and well past its prime. And they said, okay, you can do that, but you have to pay the entire cost of getting your waste to the plant. And it would have been just simply cost prohibitive. And we looked into privatizing it, and that did not look very good. And then American Water came in and said, oh, you build a new plant, and then we'll run it for you. And we said, no, thank you. So, but keeping control over our own streets, roads, and keeping our service level up is one of the things. We do have good services, and we need to make sure that we are prepared to continue to have good services.
Thank you.
You were talking about this commission that you have that you've suggested, I assume, to attract businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Have you explored other areas around Deerfield? Do they have similar types of commissions?
I have not looked. This was just an idea that I have batted around a couple of times with Harriet. She doesn't think it's all that great an idea, but I think it's something that we maybe need to consider just to see if we can help bring some businesses into Deerfield. I would like to address one other thing that is here now. It's not just coming down the pike, and that is becoming greener. Commercial recycling is something that I think we can get going. There are a lot of businesses that would like to do it, and right now they're not doing very much of it because their waste haulers just won't do it. And Vicki Case, before she was Vicki Street, and the guy from Swalco and I sat down 3 years ago and we're talking about commercial recycling. And Highland Park had put this in, and the waste haulers just screamed because they weren't getting as much money. So it kind of went by the board for a while. But I have been pushing this again to see if we could get some commercial recycling. And the idea would be that the businesses would sign up and then they would put out an RFP for services, including recycling, and they could get cans, bottles, paper. Can you imagine how much paper the people in the 500 complexes would generate if they could recycle?
You also mentioned on a different topic that downtown was the biggest change since you've been here.
Yes.
Are you happy with the change overall?
I am happy with most of them.
Okay.
I think both of them have been built with good retail businesses in mind. For the most part, we've had good retail businesses, and with this economy, it's hard to keep those spaces filled. So we just need to work as hard as we can to find people to fill the spaces, hopefully without too many more Italian restaurants.
That's true.
I would love to see a toy store, a smaller hardware store, or plumbing store. One of the things that I suggested to one of the people who was putting in a medical building is that we need a medical supply store. That would be something that would be something that we could use. There aren't any medical supply stores in this area. I think the closest one is on Dundee over in Buffalo Grove, and there's one up in Vernon Hills. But that's a business that's not served right here, and we got a lot of medical offices here now. So
based on the number of years you've been involved as trustee, how satisfied are you with the direction that Deerfield is going?
I have
Actually,
been.
are you satisfied?
Yes, I have been pretty happy with the way Deerfield is going. I think, everybody stumbles a little bit, but we have remodeled our old village hall into a new village hall and improved the appearance of that and the usable space within budget. We've had 2 TIFs that have been quite successful, the Lake Cook TIF and the one downtown. And I think that we have hired village staff that works really hard and does a tremendous job of keeping the downtown viable. There's no graft and crime, and if you look at the safety of Deerfield, you can go out and go jogging, or your teenager can, at 10 o'clock at night, and they're safe. We don't have muggers. You don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. We have one of the best police departments in the area. And, we have honest people working for the village.
Have you been frustrated with anything during your years?
Not very much. I mean, there's just, I think this village runs well. Once in a yeah, there certainly was one, when you are frustrated with something, it says go to work on it and solve the problem. And we put in a tree ordinance, we put in a new drainage ordinance, we put in an FAR, and this last, a couple of years ago, we finally got an ordinance in that we could address vacant buildings, so that the building that was, the house that was vacant for 36 years down on Castlewood, we could actually tell these people, you have to tear it down, because they couldn't make it livable anymore. So having that power has allowed us to help some of the residents in Deerfield with problems that they have in their neighborhoods. But if you get, if you're frustrated, you go find a way to solve the problem.
We met with Kent Street and some of his excellent staff. What's your relationship with them? You mentioned that earlier about working with the staff.
They are some of the best people to work with you could imagine. Kent is forthcoming and honest and has really good ideas. Jenny Maltus is essentially village manager right now because Kent's wife has been in the hospital and has had surgery. And I talked to her this afternoon about a small business electrical consortium that we might help our small businesses save some money on. There was some information that just came out today in an email, and she's right on it. She says, well, I'll go back to our MC squared committee and present this to them. There's a Metropolitan Mayor's Council that just today sent something around that says small businesses can now get into an electrical consortium like the one that you're in, has saved the overall people in the village about almost $600,000 over the last 5 months. I know my bills have been about half what they were last summer. And the small businesses haven't been able to get into this, but they can with this consortium, this new consortium that has been announced.
I understand there might be some retirements on the staff. What role does the trustees play in succession planning at all?
If it's the village manager, we hire the village manager. If it is retirements of other staff, the village manager hires the other staff, or the police chief hires the police. And obviously we have some kind of veto power if it's a high enough up person, but they have, when Bob Filkowski retired, Eric Berg stepped right into that job. And we have one less staff, and we're still getting a good job done on our finances. So that saves us money, and we have a wonderful person. And we have so little turnover in the village that people who are there know the jobs. And it's not like there's one person who knows his area and nobody else knows what's going on. So people can step in and help each other. And our police department is just, I think, without parallel on the North Shore. I like our police department very much. They have such good officers. We just had one officer, Weil, retired. And he retired to take over the worldwide safety for Walgreens, which is a pretty good recommendation.
Great.
We're going to try to, we have a little more time if there's any of us have any more questions. Mike, do you have anything?
What level of consensus do you generally see with the trustee members and the mayor going into votes and then during the voting process and after?
Usually we have time to talk about some of these things. If nothing comes up cold, we usually talk about these things in the committee of the whole meeting, and if there's anything that will be contentious, we try to work it out to a place where it will be, whatever we're talking about will be the best thing for the village and that we can all agree on. And we don't always agree. Bill Seiden doesn't like to raise the taxes at all. And once in a while you have to do that just because you've got a wastewater treatment plant to pay for or something like that. But most of the time we pretty well see things similarly. And everyone gets a say. And everyone listens to everybody else. And it's very helpful to have people of the different backgrounds that we have on the board. We have a finance guy, we've got a transportation expert, Bob Dutton, we have an attorney, we have a landscape architect, we have an engineer, and we have me. And it's a pretty interesting mix of backgrounds to address a problem.
I wanted to visit a topic that you touched on earlier about Lake County wanting to take over Deerfield Road from the village of Deerfield. I mean, I wasn't aware of that. Is the rest of the board with you on that, and that they're very opposed to them doing that?
This is something that will come up in the next committee of the whole meeting, which I think is November 26th. And I don't know how they feel about it. They're offering us some money to repair it. I think they should just offer us the money because we don't get anything from them anyway and pay for it, and that's what the mayor has said to them. And we'll hope that we can have that happen. If that happens, and then we don't have to, I don't think anybody is ready to give up control of Deerfield Road at this point. I certainly, just the idea that some board 10 or 12 years down the line would look back and say, what on earth are those people thinking?
Barbara, there are a number of board and commission positions that are open, as I understand it. Is that?
There are some. I think Susie Wexler, since she has taken over the Manpower Committee, has brought to our attention people who have filled some of those positions. And yeah, there are some. There are a couple of positions on the Environmental Committee, and there are some other board or commission positions that are open. And if you'd like to come apply.
Well, I was interested in if we're citizen volunteers, all of us that sell our community to others, and if someone asks us, what would you say would be the key board and or commission position open that you're aware of that you would think would be the highest priority that you're looking for participation in right now?
I think probably getting a couple of more members on that environmental commission is probably because this is a commission, they're looking at green everything in the village, from recycling to rain gardens to whatever we can do to be more environmentally sound. Windmills that generate power and that sort of thing. Walgreens has actually applied for a windmill on top of one of its buildings. And it's not the big ones with the arms like this, they're the cylindrical ones that you hardly see. So those kinds of things are the things that this commission looks at.
As an example of how the government works in Deerfield, would this be the board that you would task out work, let's say, on your idea for commercial recycling? Or would that be something that you would task out to various paid members of the village government?
Right now, the commercial recycling is being looked at by Jenny Maltus and the guy from Swalco, because it's pretty close to something that's going to be brought by the staff to the board, and we'll see what we can do with it. And we'll see if we can get our businesses to sign up without too much resistance from the waste haulers this time.
Would idea and future ideas like that come? Do they typically come up from those boards and commissions, or
yes,
do they come?
Both. I mean, they come from the staff. They come from the boards and commissions. They come from people that live in the village and see a problem. You're talking about problems in the village, and one that I would love to be able to solve, and I don't see any particular solution. This is a very flat area. There are a lot of areas that flood, and in fact, Northwood Circle is probably one of the worst. And I can remember a few years ago when there was a gentleman on the north edge of Northwood Circle that had a big sign up in his yard that said, "Waterfront property for sale." And I have worked with Bob Hudlick, their association president, to try to figure out, and we have found, they could install underground reservoirs for some of that water, but they would have to be able to, it's private, it's all private streets, it's not up to village standards, the village can't take it over. So they would have to pay for it. Well, the people in the south end of Northwood Circle don't get flooded, and they're not willing to pay for the stuff on the north end. So it's a very tough problem when you have that sort of thing with the private streets. I'm not crazy about private streets. I know we don't have to pay for them, but they lend themselves to having problems later on, especially some of the older ones. I would like, there are a couple of places that people have built that they've actually put underground reservoirs under their driveways because they had to do that to keep the drainage from their property from making it worse on the neighbor's property. And I would like to see people try more solutions of that kind, because they're expensive, but they're not that expensive, and at least they're probably not as expensive as redoing your basement every time you get a little extra water.
If Lake County wants to take control of the road, maybe they can take Northwood Circle.
That's not their proposal.
No.
That is not their proposal.
I have a question. You brought up actually that you're also on the Mosquito Abatement Board, which actually one topic that we discussed with some of the other people is combining services between, there's just so many different boards, commissions, groups, districts here for districts for that. And since you brought up Mosquito Abatement Board,
I have heard...
it's not a trustee question, but how does that function? How does that interact? And does it make sense for there to be a board as opposed to just, part of something else, or how does it all work?
Depends on the mosquito abatement district. In our case, it does. We have 5 trustees, one public health official, one retired science teacher, one environmentalist, myself, and an engineer. on the board, so we're all pretty technical. We have one contractor and the guy that meets with us is an entomologist. They're the ones that we pay. We have an attorney that comes and serves as the secretary. We run very cheaply. Our money goes strictly to larval control and adult mosquito control, and a small amount and a great lot of effort to education, trying to get people to not have standing water in their yards and how to protect yourself against West Nile virus and that sort of thing. Roger Simonson and I from our mosquito abatement district went to meet with the North Shore Mosquito Abatement District, and I was shocked. They have an office. They have 5 paid employees. That's where their budget goes. But those kinds of mosquito abatement districts, that doesn't pay off.
Right.
But if we were to turn this over to the villages, they would have to have a paid staff person to do this. We do it, in our case, cheaper.
On the road to this road through Deerfield Road being handled by the county, is that something that has been approached to?
That is
Park as
something
well?
that they have approached us
So
with.
you said they wanted a clear shot, so they're going to do
Well,
repairs in Highland Park as well. Right?
yes, they when they first approached us, they didn't say that it was contingent on Highland Park approving it. And
Have to be.
we couldn't figure out why they wanted to take over Deerfield Road.
That's
They
my
said,
question.
we'll pay for the renewal, but we have to take it over. Well, now, since they want Highland Park, we know. And I can tell you, I don't know what Highland Park is going to do, because the section of Deerfield Road that's in Highland Park over to 41 is not as important to downtown Highland Park as the section that we have in Deerfield. So, yeah,
Just curious what
Yeah,
Highland Park
yeah.
is.
Nothing has been settled. They have approached us with this 2 or 3 times now, and they really would like to do this. But Cook County controls Lake Cook Road, and it took us forever. And we have no voters in Cook County, so we finally have worked. Harriet and Sandy from Northbrook have worked together to get Cook County. Of course, Northbrook has voters. So we finally got Cook County to repair Lake Cook Road. We had them hold off for a year to finish it because our businesses were doing so badly because of the repairs last year. But Cook County has been very difficult to work with. And just one little example of that, we have always had at the end of Pine Street that you can't go straight across. Well, they took that sign down, and we asked them about it. And they said, that's our road, we'll do what we want. So, you don't want to lose control if you can help it.
It's okay.
But as far as you know, Highland Park has been contacted.
I don't know what
You don't
Highland
know.
Park has done. We have, they have talked to both towns, and I know we haven't formally discussed it among ourselves. We can't do that unless it's at a committee of the whole meeting where the public is invited. And we'll see.
Any more questions?
Great.
You've done really good work. What would you like to be known for the next 4 years?
I think that one of the tasks that Tom Jester and Mary Oppenheim are working on now, which is extremely important, is finishing up the traffic and parking in the northwest quadrant. The library was the last piece that really needed to be done in there, and we need to have a parking plan and a traffic plan that will serve those businesses and will serve the public and will serve the church and will serve all the governmental entities in there. So I would love to have that finished up. I would like to see some more environmentally sound projects around Deerfield, more green buildings. I would like to have a way to encourage our businesses when they remodel or build, and to say, build green and we'll give you a little certificate for your wall, or we'll do something good to recognize you for your green attitude, building, recycling, whatever. So that's one of the things I would like to see. So,
I have one question.
Okay, last question. Go ahead. Last question.
Okay. How essential is it for all the trustees who are running to return for another term from projects that are in the middle of being completed?
you know, we have a really good mix of people and talents on the board right now. And everyone brings something different to the board. I'm sure that if we had a different member, they would bring something else to the board. But it takes a while to get up to speed with whatever is going on. So
You mentioned, for example, that Mary has a connection to Northbrook, right? I think.
oh yes, yes.
Are there any other members on the trustee? You know, that's an example where, oh wow, that's a good thing to have. Are there other people who have connections to neighboring Cook County? Well, I guess Northbrook is the only one.
Well, I certainly have connections through the Mosquito Abatement Board to people in Highland Park and Riverwoods. You know, I know the mayor of Riverwoods because of the mosquito problem they have over there mostly. And, you know, you can call these people up, and I know Sandy from in Northbrook too. So, yeah, I mean, of course you get acquainted with people. We know the people up in Bannockburn. New trustees can also get acquainted with those folks. But it's nice to have those personal connections.
Barbara, we're facing some time constraints, so we're going to wrap it up right now. And
Okay.
I just wanted to thank you on behalf of everybody. I just want to thank you very much for coming in tonight and sharing your thoughts with us.
Well, thank you all for serving on this board. This caucus process is very important to Deerfield, and I appreciate your time that you put in to come and do this, because I know it takes a ton of time all scrunched together. So thank you.
Great. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Okay.